Body great. Body greater Jesus.
Oh, I gotta say Jesus. I thought I found another song without Jesus in it. Yeah, I've been looking for songs that just, if it just is referring to the Father without the names of idols, I'm like, yes, I found another one. Add to the list. Doggone it. That was doing good. It's about halfway through the song. Sheesh. Hold on. I liked it. I was like, oh, I found one. And they use the most holy. The most holy one, you are the great I am. Yeah, then he just had to go in and I get it. That's my preference now. To only have worship songs that say Father or Most Holy. Any other names added, I just got to cut it off. That's just my personal preference right now. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday, Shiro. Hey, girl. Hey, all praise to the Creator. Shalom, Jehovah's children. Then that, Shalom, Anita. Greetings. That's Yahoo 777. Greetings, family. Lindsay, Yah. Shalom, shalom. Elijah, all praise to the Creator. Peace and blessings, beloved family. That Bill Cosmo and Cal had like last night was spectacular. I got to come in and out, but I couldn't really watch it. And I went in a couple times. I didn't say anything. I'm like, man, this he's still on. I didn't get a chance because what I had going on yesterday. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch. I got a few of them I gotta go back and watch. The days just kind of keep just running on. So I'm gonna have to catch up on that one. I'm not sure who that gentleman was, but he was saying some good stuff that he was up there. So I gotta find some time to go back and watch that. I probably have to break it up in segments though. Auntie, happy Saturday, Belinda Brown, Hannah, Shalom, BC, rise and shine, good people, good blessings, Nazarene the scene. Shalom. All right, shalom. Let's get going, y'all. It is Saturday. Oh, and everybody else here hanging out in the background. Animalistic nature. It's Saturday, y'all, November the 19th, 2022. Day 267 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1286. Today we start a new book. First book of the First Lords on page 38 of Big Blue. And then we'll hop on over to the field guide to the spirit world. If we got time today, we might have time today. I'm sure we will. Just depends. And we picked that up on page 94. Book of the first book of the First Lords is only 4 chapters. We're not going to try and fit in all 4 today. We're just going to do 2. Plus, we're going to revisit Jamia's question. She here yet? Sis, you here? Set apart, grand rising. Jamia asked a question yesterday that I sort of kind of halfway answered. But after we got off a little bit later, when I came back to Oahspe, as I was looking over some stuff, as I was like, let me pre-write my notes. Well, at least my page numbers and all this stuff for today. And when I looked at this, I realized I had a whole lot of stuff highlighted already from the first time, right? So I read over the highlights. And as I read over the highlights, Jamia's question came back to him. I'm like, oh, snap. Her question is answered right here. So I don't think she here yet. Kevin, shalom. Yes, the cannibalism question, right? Now, I'll say it's answered in part, but because it's like the beginning of the answer and we know where it goes, I would say yes, the cannibalism is answered within that. Because her question was, do y'all think killing cannibalism comes from the mixing of the human races? Now, I would say, well, we're going to read it and then we're going to just like come back to it, right? Okay, so Father, we thank you that you are the, I had one. Oh man, what did I say this morning? Oh man, I had it. I should have wrote it down. I'm gonna just say, Father, you're the reason behind all that is. I had it more eloquently put than that, but that's the gist of what I was gonna say. You're the reason behind all that is. Hold on. I should have wrote it down. Okay, y'all. Hop on over. And Big Blue, page 38. First book of the First Lords. And the little subtitle under it, it says, being contemporary with the book of Sathantes, son of Jehovah. That is to say, as Sathantes was God of heaven, so in the same period of time, his lords had dominion on the earth. And this is their book, even as the preceding one was God's book. So we learned about them, how everybody got order. Sathantes was the first God of earth, and he was setting up his chain of command. So all the things that we experienced from his side, his point of view, what happened during his reign and how everything was set up. Now we get it from the perspective of his chain of command, right? So it is, right? All right, so she normally say something, but I'm gonna go ahead and read because once we get to verse, I'll say, what is it, verse 13 is when her question starts to be answered, because she said, remember the Druk, so, but okay, let me just read chapter 1, page 38. In the beginning, God created the heavens of the earth, and the Lord made man upright, and man was naked and not ashamed, neither knew man the sin of incest, but he dwelt as the beasts of the field. And over here later, when we get to chapter 2, when it's talking about the sin of incest, it also refers to it as the law of incest. In chapter 2, it calls it the crime of incest, right? Okay. In the beginning, God created the heavens of the earth, and the Lord made man upright, and man was naked and not ashamed, neither knew man the sin of incest, but he dwelt as the beasts of the field. And the Lord brought the angels of heaven to man. By his side took they on forms like unto man, having all the organs and attributes of mortals, for it was the time of the earth. For it was the time of the earth for such things to be. And it came to pass that a new race was born on the earth, and these were called Ehems, because they were begotten of both heaven and earth. What Enoch talks about, sons of God came down and had intercourse with the daughters of man, right? So the race of the earth, flesh man, right? That at that time, before they came and had intercourse with them, they were not capable of eternal life or forever progressing, right? But when they came and their offspring became part earth being, part heavenly being, it developed us, right? It's like a hybrid of the two. But now we're capable of here, living here and there, right? And we can develop our spirits here. So when we leave here, we go there, right? And it came to pass that a new race was born on the earth, and these were called Ehems, because they were begotten of both heaven and earth. Hence it became a saying, the earth conceived of the Lord. And the name of the first race was Asu, or Adam, like we hear about him in the Holy Bible and anywhere else was talking about first man and woman, right? And the name of the first race was Asu, A-S-U, Adam, because they were of the earth only. And the name of the second race was Ehem, Abel, because they were capable of being taught spiritual things, right? So in the Bible, in Genesis, when we learn about Cain and Abel, as you go through Oahspe and then you go back and revisit the Bible, you can see that the Bible takes the races of people and combines them into one person, one character. To whereas Oahspe shows you that Abel is a race of people and Cain is a race of people. They give you those same names closely, for the most part, the same names of these races of people. They just, like I said, they just combine everybody into one person, one character. So you can kind of still see the same flow of the story. They just condense everything, right? Same thing they did with Cain. And they still had the same attributes, right? Abel was the one who was in line with the light of the Father, doing what was required of those who walk the righteous path. And Cain was the one who he rebelled, right? And he got into the murder, the sacrifice, and then all of that stuff, right? Listen. And the name of the first race was Asu, Adam, because they were of the earth only. And the name of the second race was Ehim, Abel, because they were capable of being taught spiritual things. Jackson, that's you. What you doing? You got a car? Okay, don't roll it up against the wall. That sounds like you're rolling that against my wall. Let me see. Come here. Why is you unplugging stuff? Hold on, y'all. Don't be unplugging. Give me that. What's that? Because it's kind of cold out here. Give me clothes on. Little light-skinned child. And he ain't had no car. He just lied. I thought it was a car. We got these little night lights stuck in a wall downstairs. It sounded like he had a car rolling it against the wall. This little boy pulled the night light out and he rolling it against the wall. The prongs on the wall. I'm about to karate chop him to the throat first thing this morning. Okay, not really. That's a little bit of exaggeration. We don't abuse children. Hold on. Okay. I read verse 4 again. And the name of the first race was Asu, Adam, because they were of the earth only. And the name of the second race was Ehim, Abel, because they were capable of being taught spiritual things. And the Lord said, of all that live on the face of the earth, or in the waters thereof, or in the air above, that breathes the breath of life, man only have I delivered unto knowledge of his creator. Man only have I delivered unto knowledge of his creator. I feel like I said that wrong. Man only have I delivered unto knowledge. And the Lord said, of all that live on the face of the earth, or in the waters thereof, or in the air above, that breathes the breath of life, man only have I delivered unto knowledge of his creator. And the Lord spake unto the Ehim through his angels, spake he to them, saying, go hide thy nakedness, for it is the commandment of God. And the Ehims were afraid, and they clothed themselves and were no longer naked before the Lord. And the Lord commanded the angels to give up their forms and to be no more seen as mortals. And it was done. And the Lord said unto them, because ye brought forth life, which is in flesh and blood, ye shall minister unto man for 6 generations on the face of the earth. And it was so. And that man may continue to walk upright, ye shall teach him the law of incest, for man of himself cannot attain to know this. And it doesn't really get into detail of what the law of incest is, but up here it says, at the end of verse 1, it says, neither man knew the sin of incest, but he dwelt as the beast of the field. The only thing I can liken this to, or I think, unless y'all seen or unless I skipped over something, I missed it. I believe it clearly is like you're not to have sex with any of your kin, like especially your close kin. Let's just say, I would say any kin whatsoever. And I know at some point we lose track from who's in our bloodline, but definitely nobody that you know, mamas, aunties, cousins, mama or daddy side of the family. I'd say if you can go further than 6 generations back, just steer clear of family members altogether, right? I know sometimes I done heard stories. Some people find out they've been intimate with their cousin, not like first or second cousin that they grew up with, somebody that's been estranged or didn't know was in the bloodline, but as they begin to do research and stuff, they find out. I'm like, you know what? Like, what do you say? It's just like, learn from your mistake and move on. Like, right? But some people, I don't know, some people have crazy thinking when it comes to that. I'm like, first of all, that's disgusting. Okay, so because beasts, getting back on the point, I don't think beasts, they follow that law because they're animals and they just go or whatever. But I'm sure, don't quote me, I don't really know for certain 100% that beasts, animals don't get intimate with their closest kin, like dogs that are brothers and sisters. I'm not really sure because I don't raise animals, so I'm not really sure. But I would think that they're not following, oh man, that's my cousin. I can't, I don't think animals like follow that law, but maybe inwardly they do. I don't know. But that's my thoughts when I go here. If anybody can say that a little bit better than what I just tried to, then please do. Hold on. Let me see. William Taylor, shalom, shalom. True, man is the most intelligent of all earth creatures. Key, hey girl, hey. If you know you family, I'm straight. If I know you family, I'm straight. I know, right, Kevin? Okay. All right. I was just they will animals will breed with siblings. Animal, right? Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Animals don't care. Shebrew said, my dog has a brother, and they do not act like siblings. Okay. All right. So that's what I'm figuring it is. And when you read through Genesis, a lot of times this question comes up a lot, and nobody really has been able to. I mean, some people that come up with answers. I'm just like, listen, something missing, because ain't nowhere in the world the creator would tell them, or at that time I was saying, no way God is gonna tell them, hey, go marry your sister on your father or your mother's side. Like that's wrong. Something, we missing some parts here. All right, verse 9. And that man may continue to walk upright, ye shall teach him the law of incest. For man of himself cannot attain to know this. Neither shall ye permit the Ehines to dwell with Asu, Adam, lest his seed go down in darkness. And I think this right here is probably like the beginning of Jamia's question, where we got to really start paying attention. Remember, her question was, do y'all think killing cannibalism comes from the mixing of the human races? I think it has its root in the actual mixing of the angels and the humans. So, and we're going to see that when we get to Cain here in a couple verses. Verse 10, neither shall ye permit the Ehines to dwell with Asu, Adam, lest his seed go down in darkness. Here was the first warning right here. And man was thus inspired of the Lord, and he walked upright and prospered on the earth. Verse 12, but after a season, man became conceited in his own judgment, and he disobeyed the commandments of God. And he strayed out of the garden. And this is verse 13 right here, where it begins to answer it. And he strayed out of the garden of paradise and began to dwell with the Asuans, or Adams. And there was born into the world a new race called Druk, or what we know today as Cain. Oahspe College University, shalom. Tabitha, hey girl, hey. And there was born into the world a new race called Druk, Cain, and they had not the light of the Father in them, neither could they be inspired with shame nor of heavenly things. And the Ehines were grateful to the Lord, and they gave sacrifice and burnt offerings. And they said unto the Druks, go ye and sacrifice unto the Lord, and he will prosper you. But the Druks understood not, and they fell upon the Lord's chosen and slew them right and left, taking their possessions. And the Lord said unto the Druks, because you have slain your brethren, ye shall depart out of the place of God, and that ye may be known to the ends of the earth, I put my mark upon you. And the mark of the Lord put upon the Druks was the shadow of blood, which being interpreted is war. All right, so everybody trying to figure out the mark of Cain. It's easy to tell who Cain is. Look at their actions. If they're inclined to war and they're warring all the time, that's the mark of Cain upon them. We can see the mark of Cain in this current generation, right? And the Lord God said, by this sign shall the tribes of Druk and their descendants be known unto the end of the world. Let me read these last two verses again, 15 and 16. I'm just writing down war. It's the mark of Cain. Verse 15. And the Lord said unto the Druks, because ye have slain your brethren, ye shall depart out of the place of God, and that ye may be known to the ends of the earth, I put my mark upon you. And the mark of the Lord put upon the Druks was the shadow of blood, which being interpreted is war. And the Lord God said, by this sign shall the tribes of Druk and their descendants be known unto the end of the world. And woman, being more helpless than man, cried out with fear, saying, O Lord, how shall I bring forth unto thee, and not unto the sons of death? And the Lord said, because thou hast brought forth in pain, and yet called on my name, behold, I will be unto thee as a shield and protector. For I will also put a mark upon the Ehines, my chosen, so thou shalt know them when they come unto thee. And the Lord commanded the male Ehines, old and young, excuse me, old and young, to be circumcised, that woman might not be deceived by the droops. And the Ehines circumcised one another, old and young, for it was the testimony of the Lord unto woman, that seed of their seed was born to everlasting life. And the Droops came, went away into the wilderness, and dwelt with the Assuans and with one another. God said, a boundary line will I make betwixt the tribes of Droops and the Ehines, and this is the line that I, the Lord God, make betwixt them. The Ehines shall labor and clothe themselves, and I will abide with them. But the Droops shall wander in the wilderness, neither laboring nor clothing themselves. And it was so. So we can see as we go on, we can tell that the beginning of all of this, like the killing and cannibalism, it comes from Cain, right? And so, which are called, Jamil was right, they are called Droops, right? So we kind of, I was like, well, I was leaning more to the spiritual side, but this Jamil was talking about the actual physical side, and this gives the physical side. But we can also tell those who are Droops spiritually, it's like the same line, the same order, right? Whether it's slaughtering animals, blood sacrifices and stuff, slaughtering animals and cooking them and eating them, fried chicken, that's still cannibalism. No matter how much we pretty it up today, that's cannibalism. It really is, if you think about it, because we're not to kill, slaughter any man nor beast, right? If you're killing them and then you putting them in your belly, that's cannibalism, my G. I don't care what generation you live in, right? Okay. You should come in yet, Jamil? I'm waiting for it. Right, Key? Right, because they got blood, organs, feelings, etc. Right. Yeah, so I would say, just kind of in a nutshell, yes, Jamil was right? So it was not necessarily, well, they can continue mixing with one another, humans or whatever, but the root of it was the mixing of the angels with Asu, right? And then when they dwelt with Asu and they didn't dwell in like the higher light, they just degenerated even more over time, right? So that's why he said, stay away from them, otherwise your seed is going to go down in darkness. They didn't keep the commands, as we can clearly see, and it said, and he disobeyed the commandments of God, and they strayed out of the garden of paradise and began to dwell with the Assuans, Adam, and there was born into the world a new race called Droop, Cain, and they had not the light of the Father in them, neither could they be inspired with shame nor of heavenly things. And that's chapter 1, verse 13. All right. So chapter 2, that's excuse me. The time of the habitation of Asu was 8,000 years, and they survived 2,000 years after the time of the birth of the Ehines, which is to say, Asu dwelt on the earth 6,000 years, and then conceived of the chosen of God, and after that survived yet 2,000 years. And Asu, Adam, disappeared off of the face of the earth. And there remained on the earth the sacred people, the Ehines, and the carnivorous people, the Drooks, right? Carnivorous, cannibalists. It's all the same thing. Is cannibalist a word? I know I be making up my own terms. Carnivorous people, those who eat flesh and blood. And it don't matter if you ain't drinking blood. If you eating flesh, you consuming blood as well. Because ain't nowhere in the world you can cook all the blood out of the flesh, right? It's just gonna dry it up, but it's still in there. I'm just saying. And Asu, Adam, disappeared off of the face of the earth, and there remained on the earth the sacred people, the Ehines, and the carnivorous people, the Drooks. The Ehenes were white and yellow, but the Drooks were brown and black. The Ehenes were small and slender, but the Drooks were tall and stout. And reference letter A is after stout, so it goes to the end of this chapter, which is just flip one page. Let me put my blue. And this is the only footnote, the letter footnote for this chapter. And it says, this factual description is not a reference to the current races of man. Both Ehenes and Drooks are extinct. All current races, whether Asian, European, African, Native American, etc., are descended from the Ehuans and the Gons. The first race of Ehuans were copper colored, but modern descendants of Ehuans and Gons are expressed in all complexions of humanity. The reference to the Drook race should not be confused with the general use of the term, in which the word Drook refers to any person who is very low in spiritual grade, regardless of race. So Drook can be used interchangeably for the actual race of people who are extinct and the spiritual nature of a person, right? You got Drusian behavior going on, right? The low spiritual grade, they're spiritually dense. Hold on. The reference to the Drook race should not be confused with the general use of the term, in which the word Drook refers to any person who is very low in spiritual grade, regardless of race. There are also references indicating that some branches of the Ehenes were of varied complexion. For example, the Lord's fifth book, chapter 3, verse 4, notes that the Ehenes of Ham varied in complexion. See lineage of humanity plate at the end of the glossary. We'll flip there real quick. BC, right? And guess what? It's hard to eat without herbs and spices. It is, right? Because I mean, when I was eating meat, it's been a little over 10 years. Not 10 years, a little over 10 years. Okay, on page 789 is the lineage of humanity, right? It's a chart. Now I'll take a picture of this and I'll post this, just in case y'all don't have the book or you don't have the electronic version. Facebook, so you can see. And I take a picture, like I said, so you can kind of blow it up and look at it, so you can see what's actually in the blocks. Okay. Yeah, you just can't eat plain meat, right? If you eat it, you just gotta. It's like you trying to psych yourself out that you really should eat this. So you add salt, you can add stuff to it to make it smell good. Otherwise, it's like it's just like you're eating cooked flesh. Who really gets enjoyment out of that? You really get the enjoyment out of the smell of it and the feeling of your gut, right? But if you can get past the I don't know, you just got to rearrange your whole mindset. Just like people who stop eating meat, sometimes they was like, okay, well, I need a meat substitute, right? You just got to retrain your thinking. Who said you got to eat meat at all? You really don't even need a meat substitute, because that's not really what we thrive on. But we ain't going to get into that, right? It's just a retraining of the thinking, of the miseducation and misdirection we've had for a very long time. Okay. How do you guys understand that lineage of races? I'm gonna wait for somebody else to answer that. Hold on, let me go back. Because hold on. What page I said it was? 789. Time frame, assuming ancestry. I mean, I'm just giving like the basic glances, really just like the the history of how we got to where we are today and how we look today, right? It started with Oahspe and the angels, right? Temporarily in Sargis, temporarily manifesting the body. Remember, they was commanded not to manifest themselves anymore in verse. Verse 8 in chapter 1. And the Lord commanded the angels to give up their forms and to be no more seen as mortals. So they were Sargassing. And remember here, this is not even creator speaking. So when we get Genesis, creator ain't even speaking in Genesis, right? We got the Lord's version. And it says Lord's, right? Like it's telling you this is the Lord's, right? Lords and gods talking, not even a creator, which is why some of these shenanigans kind of happen, right? Hold on. Let me do this. Verse 8. Angels and Sargis. Yeah, and it shows like just like you got a mama and a daddy, and then you got the little chart going down to the child that they created, and then this person who it's kind of just like one of them, I don't know. Oahspe. I mean, am I answering that right? How do you guys understand that lineage of races? Or are you talking about like how they actually looked and stuff versus how I don't know. Like that's a question you might have to actually like talk and like not type because I might misinterpret what you're asking. But it just to me, just a simple answer is just giving the hierarchy of the timeline of like I said, how it began and how we ended up where we are today, and the names of what the people were called throughout time versus what we're called today. Right? Like the Ehuans, all humans living today are descended from these two lines. The Ehuans, originally the copper colored race, and the Gans or Ongwi, right? Ongwi. And Ongwi is what? Talking animals? I think that's what Ongwi means. Let me see real quick. We'll go back over here. Where we at? 32 minutes. It's in here somewhere. Oh, Ongwi. Yeah, talking animals, page 781. Ongwi, talking animals. The first were the Ehins of Gautama or the mound builders, but it also includes the latter races of Ehuans and Gans of Gautama, all who had attained to speech. Also used synonymously with Gans, i.e., Ongwi Gans. Okay. All right. Page 39, chapter 2. We're going to finish up chapter 2, and then we're going to hop over into the spirit field guide. The Ehins were white and yellow, but the Droops were brown and black. The Ehins were small and slender, but the Droops were tall and stout. And Selah does a real in-depth study of all these different races and looking like at the black people, midgets, southbound. And that's probably not a good word. The small people, different. You got to go and watch that. I'll leave the link. I think shucks, he did a couple of them, so you may have to watch it a few times and just add your own research to it to really get the understanding. Okay, verse 5. Now, because the Droops had not previously obeyed the Lord, but went and dwelt with the Assuans, there was a half-breed race born on the earth called Yak, Y-A-K, signifying ground people, and they burrowed in the ground like beasts of the forest. And the Yaks did not walk wholly upright, but also went on all fours. God said, because the Yaks cannot be taught the crime of incest, behold, they shall not dwell forever on the earth. So also it shall be with the Droops, save wherein they cohabit with the Ehins, whose seed is born unto everlasting life. But with the Droops and their heirs that spring from the Yaks, there shall be an end, both in this world and the next. Meaning, they couldn't be taught the crime of incest, meaning they just wouldn't get why you can't have sex with your sister or your brother and reproduce with them. So they don't need to live forever, right? Because this is going to be a bunch of crazy looking people in the world if we let that happen. Forgive me if that's offensive. Because that's what happens when you reproduce with family members, you get and I don't want to, because I've watched a few documentaries on this. You get people who are mentally incapacitated. I should show one. Y'all probably seen it. It was hard to watch, but I was like, this really happened. And it wasn't, listen, it wasn't like a mistake, like, oh my God, I didn't even know we were related. No, it's like y'all grew up together, y'all knew y'all related. And this was like a whole family of interbreeding, like here in America. And every child you had, like, you consciously made a decision to keep on having children. And each of your children that came out, yes, thank you. That's the proper way to say it, genetic mutation. Thank you. Oahspe College University, don't tell me that, bro. Listen, because I don't, well, I be cracking jokes and stuff. You joking? You don't. I ain't even gonna reread your comment, bro. Listen. No, listen, seriously. Let me be serious. They kept on reproducing, and every child that they had genetic mutations, and it seemed to just get worse and worse. And I'm just like, nobody could really be in their right mind doing this. Like, when you have a child, at least from my understanding, people, they have a child and they do all types of testing, genetics and all that stuff, to see if the child's going to have like Down syndrome or any other kind of abnormality, right? So if you would have one child, and especially the parents, okay, how could this have happened? Is there something in his genes, my genes? What could have produced this, right? And then they just kind of keep on like, okay, well, according to these DNA tests, you and your husband got the same father or the same mother. Maybe y'all been estranged somehow. You ever heard of a long lost brother? It's like all this kind of crazy stuff. I don't know. This is just really, is weird to me, right? It's just, the hills have eyes, Kevin. A lot of people don't know that. Listen, okay, look. Okay, verse 6. God said, because the yaks cannot be taught the crime of incest, behold, they shall not dwell forever on the earth. So also shall it be with the Drooks, save wherein they cohabit with the Ehines, whose seed is born unto everlasting life. But with the Drooks and their heirs that spring from the yaks, there shall be an end, both in this world and the next. And the arms of the yaks were long, and their backs were stooped and curved, kind of like the hunchback of Notre Dame. And the Lord said, because they are the fruits of incest and not capable of speech, nor of eternal life in heaven, the Ehines shall make servants of them, and that they may not tempt my chosen to bring forth fruit unto destruction. I'm like, who is you tempting looking like that? And that they may, I'm sure this is talking about the ones that are a little more sexier than some of the other products being put out. And that they may not tempt my chosen to bring forth fruit unto destruction, they shall. He's saying what? Yeah. Okay, he just saying good morning. He just said, hey, I'm awake, time to play. You can go put this back. How about you just leave that? Girl, listen, go in the room. I've been out here, nobody arguing over this. All right. Go back in the room with Dad. The first time I hear y'all fighting over that, I'm taking it. And I'm taking it with me to school. She done downloaded this. Well, I let her download. It's called like Talking Tom, Talking Angela, right? It's like animals. And whatever you can cut it on, and when you talk, it just mimics you, right? So if you're like, hey girl, how you doing? It'll be like, hey girl, how you doing, in a cartoon voice, and it'll mimic you, whatever you do, you move. It's just a mimicking thing, right? But it's also like this. It's like you can take care of it. This is like your pet. And so Bella, she has two of them. She called it her son and her daughter, Talking Angela and Talking Tom. And so they send little notifications, hey, just like this one, hey, I'm awake, time to play. Yay, Saf, bro, you been hanging out in the background. What's going on, bro? Listen, So ever so often, when I take it from her, she'll be like, "Mom, I got to check on my daughter." I say, "What do you mean check on your daughter?" Angela. I'm like, "Who is Angela?" She said, "My daughter." I'm like, "Sis, you're 6. What do you mean you don't have any children?" "Mom, my daughter, Angela." I'm like, "Bella, your doll baby?" "No, on the iPad." I'm like, who is Angela? Go get my iPad. Show me who Angela is, right? Completely not thinking. I'm like, she didn't get into something on TikTok and open up some other kind of app. And she going here into this Talking Angela app. She called an Angela, this cat, her daughter. Right? I'm like, oh, girl, I was about to disconnect all the devices. And so when it's time to go to bed or something, Bella be like, "Mom, I gotta feed my daughter." So now it's like, okay, go get it. And at first I was like, "Girl, go sit down, you're doing too much." But the way she really cares for this cat, Tom and Angela, it just, I mean, it's cool, but it's like you do know this is not real, right? You learning some skills. I really appreciate that because, like Clockwork Mom, I gotta feed her. It's time to take her out to play. I'm like, we probably should really get her some type of animal, but I'm just like, that's just gonna be another mouth for us to feed, and I'm gonna end up taking care of said animal, right? And it's just gonna be like another child to me. It's already 14 of y'all in this house already. Listen, so she be real serious about her son and her daughter, taking care of them, making sure they brush their teeth before they go to bed, they shower, she feed them. All right, I gotta go get some food for my son and my daughter. I'm like, oh, okay, too. Okay. Let me finish this chapter, y'all. Yes, right. Look, wash them up, take them to the bathroom, everything, literally. And she was like, I gotta give her a bath. And I'm like, wait, let me see. And when she said bath, I'm like, okay, let me make sure ain't no weird stuff up here showing different body parts and stuff. And she just, the cat is standing up like a human, wrapped in a towel, all the way up to here, and you just put her in the shower with the towel on her, shower, ain't nothing, no body parts or nothing showing. But yeah, I'm like, okay, whatever. Let's go back to this page 39. Verse 6. God said, because the yaks cannot be taught the crime of incest, behold, they shall not dwell forever on the earth. So also shall it be with the droops, save wherein they cohabit with the ehenes, whose seed is born unto everlasting life. But with the droops and their heirs that spring forth from the yaks, there shall be an end, both in this world and in the next. And the arms of the yaks were long, and their backs were stooped and curved. And the Lord said, because they are the fruits of incest, and not capable of speech, nor of eternal life in heaven, the Ehenes shall make servants of them, and that they may not tempt my chosen to bring forth fruit unto destruction, they shall be neutralized in my sight. And the angels of God taught the Ehenes to make eunuchs of the yaks, of the males and females, made the Ehenes eunuchs of the yaks, and took them for servants. They did the same thing to the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? Made him a servant. And the Lord said, they be trying to, I'm going to get off. Verse 9. And the Lord said, the yaks shall serve the Ehenes, and build and sow and reap for them. And it was so. The Ehenes were disposed to live alone, but the Lord called them together, saying, come and dwell together in cities, for it is meet that ye live after the manner of my kingdoms in heaven. Build ye therefore unto the Lord your God, and my angels shall dwell with you, teaching you to sing and dance for the glory of your Creator. And man built unto the Lord and established worship on the earth after the manner of heaven. Now it came to pass that the Droops came to witness the rites and ceremonies of the chosen, but they took no part therein, neither comprehended they the meaning thereof. And God said unto the Ehenes, that ye may teach some of them of the Lord your God, build ye within the house of worship an image of me, in likeness of man, build ye it. And I will manifest unto as many as are capable of everlasting life. So this is when the idols began to come on the scene, right? Well, at least the ones of wood and stone. It was to teach the ones, um, it was to teach the ones who really couldn't comprehend because their intelligence was a few levels lower than those who were capable now of eternal life. So they had to do something. It's almost like when you're teaching toddlers, right? You gotta show them, okay, so this is a representation of daddy and this is a representation of mommy. Not that this is daddy and mommy, but it's just a representation. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight that this wasn't really dad and this wasn't really mommy. And now we're worshiping idol daddy and mommy, right? Ken and Barbie. You got a whole Ken and Barbie worship thing going on now, right? They lost sight of what the purpose of it was for. Yes, droops and yaks are extinct. In the book of remembrance, in the book of in the book of remembrance of Aki, it talks a little bit of the yaks, all hairy, conscious of nothing in a way. I got it. I haven't gotten through that one. I read through the book of remembrance of our grandmothers of Enoch, and I got a couple other ones. I have that one. I just kind of flipped through it real quick, but I haven't actually got a chance to get into it yet. So that's interesting that you say that they talk about the yaks in there. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. Okay. Verse 15. And the Ehines, men and women, with their servants, built images of stone and clay and wood unto the Lord, and stood them by the altars of sacrifice. And in the time of worship, the angels of the Lord came and possessed the idols and spake therefrom with audible voices, spake before mortals. And the Droops inquired of the Ehines as to the cause thereof. And the Ehines said, behold, there is a God in heaven, more subtle than the air of heaven. He it was that brought us hereforth out of darkness. He speaketh in idle, that ye may know he abideth with his people. The Droops said, what saith he? The Ehines answered, saying, that whosoever hath attained to remember God is in the way of everlasting life. The Droops inquired, saying, how shall a man live forever? Behold, ye that believe also die. The Ehines answered, saying, as the voice of the Lord is unseen but potent, so is there a spirit in man, unseen and potent, which shall never die, but ascend in heaven to habitations prepared by the Lord. And many of the Droops pondered on these things, and their thoughts quickened their souls within them, so that they brought forth heirs unto eternal salvation. And the Lord said unto the Ehines, because you have done a good thing, go ye abroad and by the roadsides and in other places, and build images unto me and mine, and my angels shall bestow gifts and signs and miracles. And the Ehines covered the roadways of the earth over with idols of stone and wood and clay, and the angels of heaven descended to the idols and established thereabout heavenly kingdoms. And when man came hither and called on the name of the Lord, it was as a password for the angels, and they wrought miracles and otherwise gave evidence unto man of the unseen. And that is where we're going to end at today, at the end of chapter 2. We'll finish up the rest of this book. Like I said, it's only, 4 chapters? It's only 4 chapters. And we'll finish this tomorrow, probably in like 10 minutes. Like if I don't get off telling some type of story or something. And we may start, I don't know. I think I'm going to just read that, and that's going to be it for tomorrow. And then we'll read a little bit more of the Field Guide to the Spirit World. So that's what we're about to do right now. Page 39. Okay. So break it out. But some animals, like pets, live in the afterlife. They do, but they only live on the first heaven, right? It's interesting. This book, what is it called? The Afterlife something. This book, I literally just got done, I say reading it, but it's on Audible. It fell in the you know how when you get stuff off of Amazon and it recommends other books. There was this one when I had downloaded Robert Monroe's trilogy a while ago. This one book was popped up in the suggested things, and I looked at it, and I forget why I downloaded it, but it was referenced somewhere else. I want to say it was referenced in one of the other books, and it popped up, so I downloaded, and I actually just finished listening to it yesterday.
Give me my stretch keyboard.
Put this on. Josiah, give her that ball back. But in there, it talks about, and even in Robert Monroe's trilogy, you see like in the first heaven or whatever, they name it different things. But you will see there are animals that have passed away that are present, and also in this other book, Afterlife, I forget the title, Afterlife something, but it was about a man whose wife had passed away before he did, but before she passed away, um, him and her, they were doing research into this, and like out of body experiences, astral projection. They were already in the habit of studying this, and so they said, well, if this is really true, they had made this deal or pact or whatever. They said, whichever one of us goes first, we're going to try and reach out to one another. But because they were both such skeptics, they said in order to do this, we need to get in touch with our friends and have our friends get in touch with us. That way it would be this is something very specific that they set up while they both were living, right? The wife passed away first. But he didn't even remember what they had made, this deal that they had made, until like 6 months later, right, when it started happening. I won't even say it's not even 6 months. Yeah, belay my last. It wasn't even 6 months, only like a couple months when it started happening. And when it happened, I want to say the second time, that's when his memory was triggered to the pact that they had made. Like I said, they was like, yeah, we don't we're not really believers. They started off, we ain't really believers in all the afterlife stuff and the spirit. You say, what spirit still lives? Like, we're eternal. So they started studying this together as a husband and wife, and they came across some very interesting things, a lot of different experiences from different people, where they began to document and just get more looking into, like I said, OBEs and near-death experiences. And people who would have these near-death experiences, and they would come back with information, like all of this stuff, they were like deep into the study, right? So when it happened, the wife died. I just kind of give you a preview. The wife passed away, and she got in touch with one of the friends while he was sitting thinking, like, because he was destroyed. And I forget his wife's name. And he was just pretty much sitting there, as like, babe, do you still exist? Because all this studying that they had done, and now she's gone. It's like, I need some proof that what we've been studying is actually true. He was just kind of like, babe, do you exist? And like right at that moment, the telephone rung. The first time it happened, the telephone rung, and it was their friend. I'm sorry. Yeah, this was the very first time it happened. She had just died, maybe like an hour. They put the time in there. She had died at like 7:15 because she died. She had some type of illness going on with her, and they kept going in trying to heal it. Just all the different trips to the hospital and all these things, and she finally got tired, and she was like, you know what, babe, I don't want to be resuscitated this time. Just I'll be at peace. Just to let me go this time. And he was reluctant to do that, but he understood. And she said, I'm at peace now. If there's an afterlife, I'm ready for it. So after that, she decided that she would come home from hospice and pass away peacefully at home. And as hard as it was with her on her husband and her son, they had time really to spend with her, and just they had been studying this, so they was all essentially at peace. And so when she died at like 7, I think it was like 7:42 or something. And after a few minutes, he just kind of sat there, kind of still like holding her body, her hand or whatever, give her a kiss. She had passed away. He hadn't called the ambulance yet to come get her, just kind of sitting there, just taking some time before they came and removed her body. And that was the first time he was like, did all this stuff we study, he said, is it real? Is it real? And no sooner than he said that, the telephone rang, right? And I'm like, whoa, first of all, what type of coincidence is this? You just got to listen to the book or read it or whatever. But anyway, the telephone rang, and it was one of their friends, and she called and she said, hey, and I forget the names. Anyway, hey, I got this feeling that such and such, or his wife, she wanted me to give her a call. And so he was like, Joan, she just passed away at like a few minutes ago. And she was like, what? She said, I really, oh my Oahspe, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, she knew she was sick, and she was like, that's really, really strange. I really felt this inkling that she, like, you know how sometimes you can be thinking about a person and it's like boom, they'll call. Like that happens to me a lot. It's like you feel, oh, I need to call them, or somebody might be reaching out, they haven't said anything but they're thinking about you, they need you to call them or something. That thing happened. I was like, this is interesting. So I listened to the whole book. I'm gonna share it with y'all. Share a book. I forget the title. It's something afterlife or afterlife something. I know I'll be giving y'all a lot of references, but when y'all get a chance to listen to it, it's really, really good. Listen to some of the research and stuff that they've done. And even after his wife passed, a lot of things that he began to understand a little bit more, and all these coincidences that began to happen is really, really good. Okay. Oahspe College University, I will mail a picture of the lineage of races if it's easier. Yes, please. Yes. Help a sister out. Okay, let's hop over here. We have 55 minutes. We're gonna read a couple pages and I'm gonna have to close it up because I gotta get on the road. Okay. Page 94, chapter 4, soul murder. And we're picking up at the second paragraph from the top where it says, given our punitive. Okay. Given our punitive retaliatory code of justice, maybe it soothes our conscience to assume that the assailant is having a good time of it, feeding his pleasure principle, quote, getting his pleasure from rape and torture and death, end quote. Excuse me, Douglas and Oahspe, 1998, page 34. So quick recap, yesterday we were talking about the different murderers and some of the heinous crimes that they were committing where they felt like they was completely out of control, like they lost time, they went into that sunken place, and when they were apprehended, they was telling them that, hey, I didn't do that. Well, yeah, maybe that's my body, I don't even remember any of this. So what they're trying to explain is some people would think, well, the justice system would have you to think that some people, they just get a kick out of doing this type of stuff, like they're mentally assenting and doing these things, where they're trying to show them that something else is really taking place. And I don't negate that there are some cases like that, but in some of these more heinous crimes, it's like there is something else happening. Okay. Given our punitive retaliatory code of justice, maybe it soothes our conscience to assume that the assailant is having a good time of it, feeding his pleasure principle, quote, getting his pleasure from rape and torture and death, end quote. Douglas and Oahspe, 1998, page 34. Think of how much harder it would be to punish a perpetrator whose actions are actually, quote, driven by forces beyond his control, end quote. Depew, 2005, page 135. And this inconvenient fact is generally passed over at the same time that the bogus gratification principle is given top billing. A spree killer, for example, is described as, quote, getting the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the kill, end quote. McCall, 1998, page 23. Depicting these madmen as relishing their handiwork makes it almost easy for us in turn to relish the full extent of their punishment at the hands of the state. The killer, as the official portrait is sketched, has an immense appetite for ravishment, which the act of devastation satisfies. He commits these crimes, according to a leading expert, quote, for the same reasons anyone repeats pleasurable behavior, end quote. Bearer, 2002, page 129. Quote, they are seeking emotional satisfaction, end quote. Echoes FBI profiler wrestler, 1992, page 32. The pleasure theory then ostensibly provides an explanation of why the crime was committed. It fails, though, to address the many crimes whose perpetrators simply do not know why they acted as they did. Quote, thank God it's finally over, end quote, said Eddie James, captured after a senseless and brutal double homicide. Quote, I don't know what prompted it. That's a blank, end quote. Wash, 1998, page 47. Jerry Brudos, Oregon's shoe fetish killer, was yet another who was under the, quote, influence of an urge that even he himself could not define, end quote. The judge wanted to know if the attacks were deliberate. Quote, I really don't know. It just happened, end quote. Rule 1988B, page 179. What about the Harvey Gladman? What about Harvey Gladman, the Jewish rope killer who, quote, takes no pleasure in the killing? He feels like vomiting, end quote. Newton 1998, page 11 and page 180. Quote, I really didn't like to kill, end quote, said Gladman. Quote, it's a mystery. I forgot what y'all said this was, SIC. I forgot. I'm going to read it. It's a mystery. I halfway remember. Okay, let me just keep going. Quote, it's a mystery. It hard to control myself. Where this monster into my brain, I will never know. I can't stop it. End quote. BTK, Wenzel et al., 2007, page 28, 307, and 501. Still, these predators, quote, do enjoy their crimes, end quote, according to Agent Douglas, this time in reference to David Berkowitz, New York's son of Sam killer. But it did not make him feel good. Berkowitz was a compulsive killer. Quote, I thought of it as a job. I never was real happy, end quote, admitted the chubby, blue-eyed shooter. Quote, I couldn't wait for it all to end quote. Indeed, the grieving mother of one of Berkowitz's victims may have grasped the situation with greater insight than any of the experts when she came to realize that the son of Sam was, quote, a sick man, needed help. I thought he himself wanted to be caught, end quote. Klausner, 1981, page 365, 316, and 64. To the experts, though, David's case, quote, was just one more example of manipulation, domination, and control, end quote. Douglas and O'Shaker, 1998, pages 35 through 38. For his part, David felt he could never convince the agent or the psychiatrist of the phantoms that had invaded his mind. Quote, what can I do? How can I make people understand? Nobody listen. There is no doubt in my mind that a demon has been living in me since birth. End quote. From David Berkowitz's prison diary, Klausner, 1981, page 170. And this could actually be true, right? We learned about this. There could actually be a demon or another spirit that comes into a child at birth, right? You have the native spirit that the father gives, but depending on the lifestyle of the mother, the lifestyle of the father, and what has happened will determine if the child is protected or if the child is not protected, or if the child is just open, right? And another spirit. Oahspe talks about it. Where is it? I forget exactly where. If y'all remember, helps us out. But yeah, another spirit could come in and be overshadowing the infant from the time of birth, literally, right? And this is something that he said, quote, what can I do? How can I make people understand? Nobody listen. There is no doubt in my mind that a demon has been living in me since birth, end quote. Okay. Rather than being a, quote, notorious manipulator, end quote, the son of Sam was actually the manipulatee. In his own words, quote, these demons wanted people to die. That's it. Pretty simple. Me, I never needed or wanted it, end quote. Klausner, 1981, page 73. I gotta go back up. Thanks, Oahspe College University. You sent it to my email. Okay, cool. I had to check that out later today. Okay. Oh, thank you, Hannah. It's mentioned here. Okay, The Afterlife Revolution. Yes, that's the name of the book, The Afterlife Revolution. Okay, yeah, mentioned in the forward of this book. Right. That's the guy's name, Whitley Strieber. Yeah, thank you. I knew I seen it somewhere. Whitley Strieber. Yes, this guy right here, Whitley Strieber. yeah, y'all, when y'all get a chance, get that book, listen to it. It brings a whole different level of insight to some things, right? I like to look at it from different perspectives, different points of view from different people, and so you can kind of get the full story, right? And so you're not like one side. You got to look at both sides of things. Okay, back to page 96. It is unwise to apply the standards of normal self control or free will to a psyche that has gone out of orbit, gone haywire. When analysts make this mistake, saying, for example, that psychopaths, quote, choose to follow their own base urges, end quote, Depew 2005, page 8, or they, quote, choose to listen to a devil, end quote, Kerwin 1997, page 36, they are overextending the great principle of free will and choice, which can only apply to the sound mind. It simply, excuse me, it simply does not apply to the unsound mind. In the annals of irrational crime, we come across 1,000 ways in which the precious gift of free will is lost. Indeed, the reflexive, obsessive, almost robotic drift of the unhinged mind wanders far, far away from any place where pleasure or enjoyment or even choosing is a possibility. At the bottom of the pit is a person divested of his free will and of his personal power, powerless, which is shown really beautifully, if you want to say that, in the movie Split, right? Watch Split and watch Glass. And you got to watch Unbreakable too. But Kevin, this is like a perfect example of this. At the bottom of the pit is a person divested of his free will and of his personal power, powerless. From Dr. Blinder's criminal casebook alone come many attestations of this loss of power and self-direction. Quote, feelings of utter impotence, devoid of any ability to influence the course of her life, end quote. Quote, powerlessness, disassociation with suppression of anger, end quote. Blinder, 1985, page 75, 79, and 154. Quote, in the idiopathic, cause unknown type of aggressive outburst, there is a complete loss of control. The actor is himself bewildered and often seeks to learn what occurred and why he has done what he did. There are indications of severe ego deficiency which permits impulse to flow, end quote. Manfred Gutmacher, Mind of the Murderer. Where we at? I got a few more minutes. Okay. Quote, severe ego deficiency, end quote, is a long-winded way of saying non-person, which we are already familiar with in the form of void, abeyant, or passive self. The spiritual vacuum virtually sucks in other personas. The vehicle running on empty draws the power from elsewhere to fill the void. Here are some key phrases describing this murderous non-person. And it's given another whole list of different murderers and some of the things that they said. Number one, we at the top of page 97. Ted Bundy, quote, non-emotional, removed the void of his soul, end quote. Rule 1986, 392, and 116. Richard Chase, quote, nonverbal, withdrawn, no emotion or feelings, blank look, end quote. Markman and Bosco, 1989, page 167, 184, and 174. Chikatilo, quote, arrest of development, end quote. Conradi, 1992, page 253. Fred Coe, quote, he was barren, seemed to lack emotion. He's a shell. There's nothing there, end quote. Olson, 1983, page 270, page 348 and 87. John Wayne Gacy, quote, there was no feeling, lacked an independent identity, end quote. T. Cowhill, 1987, page 307 and 109. Joe Callinger, he was his parents' quote, obedient robot. He didn't know who he was. Joe was treated as a non-person. End quote. I should be saying end quotes because I'm just lumping them all together instead of saying quote, end quote, quote, end quote, quote, end quote. I'm just doing it at the beginning of all the quotes and doing end quote at the end of it. So I say end quotes. I'll start adding S to it. Schreiber, 1984, page 45, 51, and 362. Bobby Joe Long, quote, lacking in emotion, rang hollow, never matured emotionally beyond infancy, end quotes. Morrison, 2004, page 157 and 180. Henry Lee Lucas, quote, almost infantile manner, end quote. Cox, 1991, page 57. Charles Manson, quote, I was truly a nothing, end quote. Emmons, 1986, page 222. Marie No, quote, there was nothing behind her blue eyes. Total lack of emotion, end quotes. Glatt, 2002, page 20 and 3. Joel Rifkin, quote, he seemed utterly absent, as if his self had long since left his body, end quote. Kerwin, 1997, page 42 and 49. Arthur Shawcross, quote, he never grew up, broken down ego functioning, end quotes. Olson, 1993, page 286 and 193. Peter Sutcliffe, quote, it was possible to walk into a room in which Peter was sitting and not even notice he was there, end quote. Byrne, 1985, page 32. Dan White, quote, a virtual non-person, end quote. Blinder, 1985, page 50. Randy Woodfield, quote, no emotion there at all, just emptiness, end quote. Rule, 1988A, page 474. R.L. Yates, behind the window of his eyes, quote, there wasn't a soul home. His eyes were dead, end quote. Bearer, 2002, page 106 and 33. Quote, he can mimic the human personality perfectly, end quote. Keith Abloh, Inside the Mind of Scott Peterson. Peter Vronsky, 2004, pages 160 to 61, reports on an intriguing, though macabre episode in the college days of Ted Kaczynski, the notorious Unabomber, an episode that points to another way that the non-person may take shape. As a young man in 1959, Kaczynski survived, quote, a series of brutal personality breaking, end quote, experiments conducted at Harvard and similar to CIA trials, testing brainwashing, mind control, and other intelligence techniques. How many of y'all knew that? Listen, let me read that again. As a young man in 1959, Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Hold on. Uh-oh. Siri, I ain't said nothing to you.
Okay, I found this on the web for a series of brutal personality breaking experiments conducted at Harvard and similar to CIA trial.
As a young man in 1959, Kaczynski survived, quote, a series of brutal personality breaking, end quote, experiments conducted at Harvard and similar to CIA trials, testing brainwashing, mind control, and other intelligence techniques.
Okay, I found this on the web for a
Siri.
series of brutal personality breaking experiments.
Stop it. How well, for example, could recruits withstand, quote, interrogation designed to break down their personalities, end quote. What personality types would be best suited for clandestine work? Ted was only 17 when he became a test subject, a lab rat for this protocol that made, quote, surprise attacks, end quote, on subjects' belief system. Harvard's records of Kaczynski's involvement in the program were quickly sealed. I bet they ain't tell nobody this. Harvard's records of Kaczynski's involvement in the program were quickly sealed when the story leaked in 2000. Quote, some of the participants, however, recall the experiments as being devastating of their personalities, end quote. The test tube babies process things in the same way humans do. I don't know. Was that a joke? I don't know. The test tube babies. Yes, I don't know. That's a good question though. Listen, Siri do be tripping. The kids was in our room the other day because I got Alexa sitting on a nightstand. And Isaiah asked, he said, Alexa, are you asleep? And Alexa said, no, I'm always listening. I'm like, what the crap? I was like, you know what? Unplug Alexa right now. Say no telling what she done heard. Listen, let's not be fooled by appearances lacking true self. The non-person may easily slip. It's probably not good to have Alexa in your bedroom either. Listen, if you do get one, get the one where you can turn it. It has a door where you can cover up the camera now, right? Just cover up the camera. Or if you already got one and your camera can't be covered up, take something and just cover it up, or just unplug her, right? Unplug her or turn her around. Siri can make FaceTime. Alexa can make FaceTime phone calls. Oh my gosh. Listen, I'm gonna have to end this. Hold on. Let's not be fooled by appearances. Lacking a true self, the non-person may easily slip into any role, often appearing to all the world as a compliant, clean-cut, respectable fellow. The astute profiler is well aware of this veneer of politeness. Some offenders are even courteous or helpful to a fault, like Scott Peterson, remembered by acquaintances as, quote, respectful and serious, Ablo 2005, page 104, or like Chris Longo, familicide, regarded by churchmates as, quote, a model for other men, end quote, polite and charming, or like David Mehofer, kidnapper, killer, so well-mannered and considerate. Yes.
iPad needs to be taken one.
I know, thank you. I'm going to probably just take it with me to school. All right, y'all. Listen.
No, you just let me on, and I'm just not gonna let Bella on since she wants to.
Yeah, so y'all can be fighting here amongst. No, I know. I'm gonna take it with me. Look, I'm gonna read this last little paragraph, y'all, and then we're gonna have to pause. Logic. A child, and we're at the bottom of page, the last paragraph on the bottom of page 98. Logic. A child raised in the school of deceit and pretense, counterfeit and cover up, himself becomes perforce a master of imposture, a genius, well taught of guile, an artist extraordinaire of craft and camouflage. We often find the big lie or the big secret lurking in the family background of the psychopath. David Berkowitz's adoptive parents told the boy that his mother had died in childbirth, which gave him a heavy feeling of guilt, but it was a lie. She merely had him illegitimately. Eventually, he did reunite with his mother and sister with mixed results. Imagine that, being told that your mom died in childbirth, and then years later you find out she's alive and walking around. Oh my goodness. Eventually, he did reunite with his mother and sister with mixed results. John Kapler, Dr. Death, as we saw, was also conceived out of wedlock. It was a big family secret. Ted Bundy also grew up inside the bubble of a big family secret. Because his young mother conceived out of wedlock, the family pretended she was his sister, not his mother. Oh my goodness. There was another big secret in Ted's family. Daddy, grandfather, a church deacon, kept a large collection of pornography, which little Ted found and studied. Oh my G. Mark Hoffman, the Mormon bomber, 1985, was a piece of work who held a shameful family secret.
Mom, Josh is trying to let me get off of my schoolwork.
That don't look like you're doing schoolwork. That looks like, let me see, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, that is that okay. But I'm taking it with me. I'm taking it with me. It's too much fighting. Mark Hoffman, the Mormon bomber, 1985, was a piece of work who held a shameful family secret. His grandmother's polygamous marriage that post-dated the 1890 Mormon decree against plural wives. Quote, it was a secret that members of Mark's family seldom discussed. Stay right here for a second. It was a secret that the members of Mark's family seldom discussed. End quote. Lindsay, 1988, page 29. Mark, in turn, would become one of the biggest deceivers and frauds the saints had ever known. There were quote terrible secrets and hypocrisy in Gary Gilmore's weird family, as well as mysteries, death of children, and abandonment. His mother once tried to smother his baby brother, and Gary witnessed it. The big secret was also imposed on Richard Ramirez, the Tex-Mex Night Stalker serial killer, after witnessing a murder at age 14 while visiting his older favorite cousin Mike. Richard watched his cousin shoot his wife to death in cold blood. Richard was then instructed to never say what he had seen. Though Diane Downs, who murdered one of her children and attempted to murder the others, had been molested by her father at age 12, their secret was never once discussed. Her father was an influential man, after all. It was not until the trial of Spokane's prostitute snuffer. Boy, they give these people some names, right? The prostitute snuffer. Oh, I might put that in today's title. I try to use catchy titles, but something like the one I wanted to use yesterday, it was a bit much. But I think I might use prostitute snuffer today. The big secret and prostitute snuffer, something like that. It was not until the trial of Spokane's prostitute snuffer, Robert Lee Yates Jr., that a childhood secret came out. Yates had been repeatedly molested by a neighbor at the age of 6. Quote, this has remained a deep secret for him throughout his life. Bearer, 2002, page 287. Oh, another little long-held Yates family secret emerged around that time. Yates' grandmother had killed his grandfather with an axe. Go ahead. Go back upstairs. Sheesh.
Mom.
Yes. Go ahead. Auntie, you better say that. Listen. Look, I halfway like my sister's coming in on me. Stop. But seriously though, it can't be more than one leading woman under the roof. It ain't gonna be two. It's absolutely not, right? We'll help you out for a little bit, then you got to go on about your way. You're having problems, we're gonna help you get on up out of here. All right? We want to help you to continue to progress in Jehovah's kingdom while you're here on earth. Let's pause right here, y'all. Yeah, I'm with you, Auntie, on that. Look, key. Shoot. Okay, page 99. All right, so this we're gonna pause right here, y'all. Oh, I said I wanted to read that. We definitely didn't get to it. The 12 steps to raise a delinquent child. And you got a child holding a gun with the no sign. So we'll get to this tomorrow. And I think we'll finish this chapter tomorrow too. Maybe not. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. We probably won't. I don't know. We'll see. We may not. Just depend on what's going on. All right, y'all. So thank y'all for hanging out. I got to get rolling. It is Saturday, November the 19th, 2022, day 267 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Some of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1,286. Today we started in first book of the First Lords, and we read pages 38 to 39, and that was chapters 1 and 2. And then we hopped over here back in chapter 4, which is entitled Soul Murder of Field Guide to the Spirit World. And we read pages 94 through 99. At the beginning, I didn't see Jamil. Did Jamil come in? I think we halfway answer her question again, but we got a little bit more insight from the first chapter. Remember, her question was, do y'all think killing cannibalism comes from the mixing of the human races, right? So definitely yes, but the root cause of all of it begins with the mixing of the angelic races and the human races. So nope, sis probably knocked out. I'm sure she'll I'll talk to her later. I talk to her a lot offline. A little, not a lot, but a little bit offline. All right, but I'll let her know. Come back and watch it. All right, y'all. Ain't Siri nosy Nazarene the scene? Let me go back. I'm just checking real quick. See if I missed a question. Yes, have you been hanging out in? You been one of the ones hanging out in the background, or you truly you just been gone for a while? I'm curious. I'm nosy, but it's good to see you, brother. Wait. Oh, I just saw this up here. Elijah said, "Spirits of animals have a soul, but the drooks and yaks don't have a soul." I knew all. Tabitha said, "I knew all of this, but I felt sorry for them. They worked so hard for the Ehings. Wish something could be done for them." Yeah, I know. I mean, because shucks. I mean, they would have been if they would have been. This probably sounds horrible. If they would have been allowed to live and continue to procreate, right? It would have the world as we know it, and it's a mess now, right? Imagine what it would be if they were allowed to just continue to carry on, right? Having intercourse with family members, like not caring, really just sticking and moving like the beasts of the earth do, right? Just like not caring, just planting seeds. Imagine what the races of people. I mean, it still be the human race, but we'd be a open freak show. Like it wouldn't be like where people go in hiding. It would be like every day we seeing monsters walking the street, and that's horrible. It really is. I gotta say something silly, but seriously, think about that. We just don't need this to go on, right? I mean, and you think I was never the one that's gonna make fun of people. I mean, I like crack jokes and I like to laugh with you, not like laugh at you, right? My little plant. I've never been the one to like make fun of people in school. I actually felt bad. I'm like, that is so wrong, right? But if you think bullying and stuff is bad now, oh my gosh, and if I don't know, I'm gonna just leave it alone if I get myself in trouble. All right. Been here on and off, but still watching. Okay, bro. Okay. All right, y'all. Let me get out of here. I gotta roll. I gotta be in class shortly. So I will see y'all. That would tie into the Anunnaki story of them using it. It absolutely would, wouldn't it, Elijah? It would. I'm still glad to this day that I decided to read that. I lost a few people when we read the Anunnaki Bible, but that's okay. But it's tying into some of the stuff. It brought light to a lot of things. They termed it different things, but as we go through all this stuff, we can kind of connect the dots, right? Even with the different names of things that people call stuff and call the groups of people, we're able to make the connection once we just start putting all the information together, right? So I'm really enjoying this little journey. Right. All right, y'all. That's it. I gotta go. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning and we can hang out for a little while longer. Right. I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Thanks for that. Love y'all. Bye.